weavers commit suicide. As you have an open door policy on, silks coming in, synthetics coming in, no duties or low duties, things being done. As farming went into crisis, the weavers lost their first market. The first market of the weaver is the farmer and agricultural laborer, for whom the weaver makes soft woven white cloth. When you go as an agricultural laborer, you don't wear Benetton into the fields. You wear, in Telangana's 47 degrees heat, you wear white woven cloth. Everything has changed as people now wear synthetic t-shirts, mass-produced in China or Thailand or somewhere else. A hell of a lot of the weavers were anyway in decline. By the way, every decade there is a weavers census. And the census of India also gives us the idea. Weavers are in almost free fall decline. Their population has reduced 20% between three censuses. You have the most skilled schools of weaving in the world. I am arguing to you that what we call the agrarian crisis is unleashing the biggest de-skilling of the countryside. Do you know that all the weavers of the famous Kanjivaram sari, the great Kanjivaram sari, today there is not a single Tamilian weaver in RD or Kanjivaram. Who are the weavers of the Kanjivaram sari? The Tamil weavers of Kanjivaram have given up. They are driving auto rickshaws in Madurai, Trichy and Chennai. They are driving auto rickshaws in Madurai. They find it much less hard work. And by the way, we call this giving people skills. We train them as drivers and we say we're giving them skills. They had some of the greatest, most ancient skills in the world, making a Kanjivaram sari. And they're driving auto rickshaws. Who has replaced these weavers? The Padmashalis of Telangana. They are now running the looms because for them they are so poor that even what the Tamil weavers cannot live on, they are willing to accept. So Kanjivaram saris, what remains of it, is made by Telugu weavers from Telangana actually, Padmashalis, who also do the weaving of Sholapur, which is famous for fabric in Maharashtra. Here's another thing. The market today is flooded with Chinese Kanjivaram saris. Let me say this, that the Chinese have shown more respect to our weavers than we have. They've taken a small community of Tamil weavers of Kanjivaram, settled them in Zhangdao, and allowed them to pursue their own designs, not something ordered by Vidyarthi or Fab India. Okay? They are doing their traditional designs. They use Chinese silk, and those saris, the equivalent Kanjivaram sari which sells for 20,000, those saris are going for 5,000, 6,000. You can go into a shop in Chennai and ask for Chinese Kanjivaram. You can do that. Okay? So your weavers are also in very bad shape. Please understand this, rural India is, in my opinion, has the greatest collection of skill sets in the world. No one knows how many schools of weaving there are. No one has ever made a comprehensive list. If you travel across Bengal, as I did, you'll see 40 different weaves, Bailu to whatever names I can't pronounce. You travel across Odisha, you'll see 60, 70 different weaves. Each tribe has a weave. You have the Sambalpuri. You have God knows how many kinds of Saura, different weaving, all in decline. One of the greatest de-skillings of society is taking place. Okay. Where are those? They're becoming agricultural laborers. They're becoming auto drivers. There is a huge loss of skills. Skills that took 2,000 years to build. Right? So that, again and again I'm trying to emphasize to you, agrarian crisis is not just the crisis of cultivation. It's something much larger. It's affecting every sector of agrarian society. Third, the 2011 census shows you that between 2001 and 2011, India saw one of the greatest migrations in our history. This is not about villagers going to the city. The largest migrations are people running about in the countryside itself. Meaning, see, there are many kinds of migrations, okay? Typically in all our heads, when we say migration, we think that somebody came out of a village in East Godavari and he went to Mumbai or he went to Chennai, and that's the story of migration. It isn't so. Migrations are rural to urban, rural to rural, okay? Urban to urban, a tiny fraction of urban to rural, like say when government of Tamil Nadu created the manufacturing hub of Tirupur, it gave incentives to a certain section of the working class from Ambattur, Chennai, Padi, went to Tirupur, which was a movement to a rural area when governments give incentives for industries to open in rural areas. So you have village to village migrations, you have rural to rural migrations. The migrations to the cities now are taking place to the urban periphery. So so many people don't come to Mumbai, they come to Kalyan, Thane, close by satellite cities of Mumbai. They settle there. Those populations are growing. Then, the fact is, there is what demographers can call the URGD. It's called Urban Rural Growth Differential. It's a ready reckoner for the size of migrations. The URGD in the 2011 census is at its highest in 40 years. What do the numbers tell us in the census? This was the first census in your history as an independent nation where urban areas added a greater number of people than rural areas did. Even in the 2001 census, urban India added 68 million people, and urban India added 68 million people, and rural India added 113 million people. That means rural India added some 45 million people more than urban India. Okay. However, in the 2011 census, rural India added 90 million people and urban India added 91 million people. That's a switch around of 46 million in 10 years. It can be accounted for in 3 ways, but 2 of those 3 ways don't really work. One is the fall in family size. Yeah, there has been a big fall in growth rate of the population. And yes, the extent of the fall in the rural areas is quite spectacular. However, the average size of a rural family is still way higher than the average size of an urban family. So growth rate of the population or growth rate or family size does not account for the migration, for this figure, for this number. The second is reclassification of villages as towns and cities. My father came from Kakinada. Everyone thinks of it as the shiny, spanking city in Andhra. It was a village. It had no railhead. When I used to go home for holidays, we took a horse cart. From Samalkot station to Kakinada, you went for 1 hour by horse cart. But then it gets changed. So you reclassify Kakinada as a town, as a city. But even the number of towns and cities reclassified do not justify this 46 million switch. The only thing that will justify it is gigantic migrations. Do you know that the last time urban India added more people than rural India was 1921, after a gigantic epidemic of influenza, flu. Soldiers returning from France, gassed by chemical warfare of the Europeans, came back. It was called Spanish influenza because it killed a lot of people in Spain. It was called the Spanish flu. It killed estimates in India are between 11 and 21 million people. Many historians agree on about 15, 16 million. That's for the first time rural India shows a net decline in the population as compared to the previous census, 1911 census. But we didn't have such an epidemic between 91 and 2011. There was no great epidemic. All the noise we made over SARS, yeah, it killed 0. It affected 3 people. There were 3 claimed deaths which are not established, but no, there was no great. The plague of Gujarat 94 killed 54 people. So there was, none of this accounts for the switch around in the urban-rural differential in population. The only way we can account for it is massive migrations. And it's the 5th kind of migration, urban-rural, rural-urban, what I call footloose migration. That is the most vulnerable, and that concerns a lot of your people from agriculture. A footloose migrant is one who has no clear destination. He and his family, or she and her family, will keep moving for work. So they will come to Mumbai for construction. The construction work gives them work for 3 months, maybe 90 days, 100 days. Then it's over. Then they move to Sangli to work on the building of a dam. They get 70, 80 days work there. Then they go back to Odisha where they came from for the harvest and for the sowing. Then they go to Raipur to pull rickshaws in the tourist season. The children of these human beings will never go to school.
And brick making.
And brick making in Vizianagaram in Andhra Pradesh. These are the hardcore illiterate classes. Their children, especially the girls, will never go to school. You see, when parents are moving out of their village, they may leave a young boy with the grandparents, if there are grandparents. They will never leave a young girl behind. They will never leave the girl behind. So those girl children are doomed never to go to school and never to go to it regularly. That's all. So what are we? You see the many dimensions of this crisis. It's not just farming. It's having to do with gigantic policy changes in the course that India took from 91 onwards. However, come to the farming. It's not, the crisis of farming is a crisis of our policy. It's not, you know, everyone gets mobilized when there's a drought. Okay, now Tamil Nadu, everyone is saying farmers' suicides, drought, poor things. They were suffering even when there was no drought. Drought heightens the suffering. And by the way, I don't call it a drought. I have covered drought for 30 years. What you're in the country is another part of the crisis. You are in the midst of a mega water crisis. You are using water that you cannot replace, that you cannot replenish. You're using water for lifestyle purposes increasingly, and huge diversions are taking place from villages to cities. Though the water comes, the natural bodies of water are all rural, but the consumption is highest in the cities. So you're seeing gigantic transfers of water from rural to urban. In Maharashtra, an RTI done by Priyanka Kakodkar a top reporter of the Times of India, revealed that Maharashtra's cities get 400% more water than Maharashtra's villages, though the need for water, and especially for drinking water, is far higher amongst rural classes who do far more physical labor and therefore need far more water. 400% higher is the amount of water the urban areas get. In all the drought-given areas of Maharashtra, and I can show you slides if we have time, multi-storied buildings are springing up, 40 floors, 35 floors, with swimming pools on every floor. Yeah, they're called balcony pools. I know you don't believe that. Would you like to see a photo of it? I'll show you 10 pictures of balcony swimming pools. All this is, now look at the, for me, the tragedy. I mean, I come back from Marathwada in 2012, 2013. There is complete chaos in the countryside. Farmers are killing themselves. Osmanabad is the second worst district for suicides in Maharashtra after Yavatmal, according to the government of Maharashtra, not according to me. But I go to these places where they're building these swimming pools in buildings. Buildings are coming up where they're planning swimming pools. Now, if you're a reporter of the kind that I am, you don't go and interview the builder first. First, you interview the construction workers. कौन है आप लोग? सब हम सब शेतकरी हैं. शेतकरी means किसान in Marathi. हम सब शेतकरी हैं. Do most of you follow Hindi?
Yes.
Okay. आप यहाँ क्या कर रहे हैं यार? गांव में जाके खेत नहीं है क्या? खेत तो है सब. तो यहाँ क्यों खड़ा है? पानी नहीं है सब गांव में. They abandon agriculture because there's no water in the fields and come to the cities to build our swimming pools. Okay? There is an incredible and unsustainable injustice to the way we are developing as a nation. No society can for long or indefinitely sustain this level of injustice. The guys whose families are cracking up, breaking, killing themselves, struggling to survive, are coming and building our swimming pools. And there are no bans on this, nothing. Let me give you from last year's drought in the Marathwada. I mean, year before last, because last year they had good rainfall. In the drought areas, the woman, poor woman, standing in the queue for the tanker, you know how much she pays for a liter of water? 45 paisa to 1 rupee. And she will wait hours. For me, the waiting cost is also money because she could otherwise be earning money in that time. If she waits 3 hours to collect the water, you should count what her earning would have been, and that is the cost of the water. Okay, but let's take 45 paisa. Marathwada, 1 rupee per liter a poor woman is paying, 45 paisa to 1 rupee a liter after 3 hours of waiting in the queues. 24 beer and alcohol companies around Aurangabad, Marathwada get 3 million liters daily at 4 paisa per liter. That is the official legal contract of the government with the alcohol companies. It all came out in 2015-16, last year in fact, when the courts ordered, by the way, the courts ordered that no IPL could be held in Maharashtra, whereupon the entire media attacked the High Court, saying, oh, IPL brings revenue. It doesn't. They were given huge entertainment tax waivers by the government of Maharashtra. Mr. Vilasrao Deshmukh gave them a gift of 24 crores. After we wrote stories about it, then the court ordered that that entertainment tax be collected from them. Incidentally, please reflect on the irony of giving a waiver on entertainment tax to the IPL. It then means there is only one ground for waiving entertainment tax. The ground for waiving entertainment tax is that your activity is educational. So it means that all those cheerleaders are part of an educational activity for us. They're educating us Indians on what cheerleading is about. Yeah? An art that was never known in Indian sport earlier. Right? So, the only reason a film gets an entertainment waiver is when a film is deemed educational. IPL got an entertainment tax waiver, I wrote about it. Mr. Vilas Rao was, as for the millionth time in his illustrious career, furious at me and told me so, which of course was the best compliment that I could get. And though of course he never said it in anger, he was always someone trying to buy you. Okay, I mean that was his style of politics and functioning. But he was very upset and the court ordered that this, I do not know if a single paisa of that 24 crores has been collected to this day. We have to do another RTI to figure this out. But a poor woman paying 1 rupee per litre, where beer companies paid, and IPL paid nothing at all. Because those were the grounds, many of your cricket grounds are, please understand, they're not owned by IPL, they're not owned by BCCI. Eden Gardens is owned by the Army, Fort Williams. It's owned by the cantonment. It's given over freely to BCCI. Ferozshah Kotla ground in Delhi is owned by the government. It's not owned by the BCCI. I speak as a complete cricket fanatic. I don't consider IPL to be cricket. Okay? You have privatized a national passion. Literally, I mean, that is you've taken it out, and who are the people who were beneficiaries? Please know, who were the beneficiaries of the tax breaks that IPL gets?
Owners of the team.
Vijay Mallya, Royal Challengers Bangalore. Mukesh Ambani, now owner of 2 teams, Mumbai Indians, and I think he's taken over one more.
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan, these are the people whom you're giving tax waivers to. Yeah? You're not giving it to Indian cricket. You're not giving it to any of those activities. You're giving it to private owners of cricket teams. Your crisis, your agrarian crisis, has to be seen in the following frameworks. 1, the larger crisis of inequality. The biggest crisis in your country is the crisis of growing inequality. 2, the crisis of policy that has led to those kinds of inequality. 3, the crisis of water. I say it's a mega water crisis because when we say drought, then what does it mean? It implies meteorological failure, which in turn implies that if tomorrow there are good rains, crisis is over. Let me tell you, if there are 10 good monsoons, you still have a crisis. Yeah? Because the rivers are not collecting so much water as they did. The groundwater, meteorological failure is not the only source of drought. We have a hydrological drought. The surface waters of the rivers and streams, you have a groundwater drought. Every year, we are failing to replenish some 25 to 30% of what's taken out. And whatever happens with good monsoons, there is every year a 10% deficit on what was drawn in terms of recharge. So you have a mega water crisis. You have a gigantic employment crisis because you've destroyed millions of livelihoods in the countryside. And what jobs have you offered them? Look, the landless agricultural laborer coming out of Telangana or Ramanathapuram doesn't go to Bangalore and get a job in Infosys. Oh, by the way, they do. In the Infosys canteen, you can see farmers.
Security guard.
From Mandya and Hassan. You can see people who were farmers in Mandya and Hassan. Skilled people who knew how to make the earth talk. Skilled people who knew how to grow 50 kinds of vegetables. How come we don't consider that knowledge? How come we don't consider that a skill? Yeah. One of the dirty things we did on emergence as a nation was to remove the bargaining power of an entire class by saying, agricultural labor is unskilled. By the way, the definition of unskilled in India largely translates into whatever it is that women do. Okay, look at agriculture. Look at paddy transplantation. Have you ever seen a man doing paddy transplantation?
No.
Very rarely. 95% of paddy transplantation is done by women. Very rarely do